Hello, fam, and welcome back to the Limitless Living podcast. Today we've got BeeGee on the show today. She is the founder of Fem Wealth Engineer and a brand strategist and wealth coach who has been working with women to create wealth for 10 years now. Is that right?
Almost 14.
Almost 14. Damn,
I know,
girl.
right?
She's seasoned
I
and
know it's
wise.
crazy. I'm only 22.
But how old are you actually, though? Because I have no idea.
37.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I was going to say, oh, so we have a prodigy
I
on
know,
the show today.
exactly. Yep.
Welcome on, my love. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. I'm so excited. I feel like we've been talking about this for months. And so I'm just really excited to be able to expand a little bit more into other people's networks this year. It's like last year, my head was down. I was working so hard on everything and pivoting and rebranding and all of the things. And this just feels so good to like have conversations with people in the outside world again.
Dude, yes, I get that. It's funny. We both went through the pivot and the rebrand and what seemed like an intense fashion in 2023. And now here we are putting ourselves out there in different ways.
Yes, intense indeed.
Yeah. Well, we want to hear all about it. So if you could just, oh my gosh, give us I don't even want to say cliff notes. Like I want to hear your story from the get-go and how you started in entrepreneurship and everything that you've navigated in the past 14 years. So just tell us what you think we need to know about you and your story.
Well, we need more than 30 minutes for this, but we'll do some deep-ended cliff notes. So I'm Nick BeeGee. Thank you for having me again. I'm a wealth mentor and a brand strategist, and I've been in the industry for 14 years. I actually started as a brand designer um, in network marketing. And so I was very big in the Beachbody world. My name was passed around, and I built my business, a multi-six-figure business, by word of mouth. And it's really interesting to see how it unfolded into what it is now. And it really comes down to um, getting to know myself on a deeper level, healing my relationship with money, and learning that wealth is something that we can create and enjoy now and not just set up for the end of our lives. And a lot of that was deep rooted self exploration and just learning how to relay that message through my brand. And so that was really when I started to hear the words like zone of genius, right? Like when I started my business, none of that shit mattered. It was like, what is niching? What is like, you know what I mean? Like social media marketing was so new that we didn't have the distractions and like the inspiration that we do today. It was just like, we're working. And we all thought that we like had discovered this amazing new thing that nobody else is doing. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm a brand designer. Nobody's doing this, right? But it's like, now we have all the distractions. Now we have all the comparisons. Now we have what is a beautiful industry, but there are so many things that I think that people not only take for granted, but have misconceptions about. So it's really important to do that deep rooted work. And so I kind of just flowed through entrepreneurship the first like decade. It was like I was just doing whatever to like make money, right? People were like, "Oh, do you do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, if you're going to pay me, right?" It's like whoever, whatever. And it was fun until it wasn't. You know, it was like I was always in a constant state of lack. It was like more, more, more. I hustled, I worked so much. I remember like the third year that I had been doing brand design, it was like close to a $300,000 a year. And I didn't even know how to comprehend that at that age or that like point in my life. And so I actually went into bankruptcy like shortly after that, like the year my millionth dollar rolled in, it was like I was filing bankruptcy. And the more I made, the more I spent, the more I hustled, the more, because it was like I was never on a healing journey. It was just like, oh, I'm making a lot of money running businesses, and people are paying me for things that I don't even know what I'm doing, but people want to pay me. And I burnt out, and I had to flop and rebuild so many times because I would hit walls and I wouldn't understand why. And it was like it really was missing like that embodiment and that deep rooted shit that now I understand. And I truly don't think that, I mean, I truly know that I didn't really wrap my head around this until I got sober. And that was like, I was like a brand new naked spanking crying baby. Okay. It was like, I didn't even know what hit me. I was like, I was so desperate for it though, that it was like, okay, well, here the fuck we go. And so that happened September 5th of 2022. I took my last drink. September 6th or September 7th. I can't remember if it was the day after or the day after that. And I was like starting my business over. Like the websites that I had designed, like my client portfolio, my client base, everything. I literally just like wiped my hard drive. I'm like, I'm starting over. This is nothing that I have done in the past even matters going forward because I don't even know like who I was or how I created all of this. And I want to heal from that and but also not allowing that to be my identity moving forward. And so I grew up very quickly. It was like hyper speed, right? And it was like I learned a lot about quantum leaping. I learned a lot about my human design. I learned a lot about the industry that I didn't even know, like this corner of the industry of like healers and manifestors and all of these types of women that I didn't even know existed. And they helped me really get down and dirty with like why I operated the way that I did because I was always too impulsive. I was always too this, I was always too that. I'm a sacral authority generator with ADHD, but I didn't know that before, right? It was just like I'm just a fucking lot to handle, right? You know, I was always I could never slow down. I could never, well, you're moving too much, you're doing too much, whatever. And so it was like when I truly like only had me. I didn't have the booze, I didn't have the toxic friends, I didn't have the destructive ways of suppressing things and dealing with things. And it was really just me. I was like in this room with just me and it was like, "Hi. You're too much," right? Like and so when I really learned how I operate and why I operate that way, it was like a whole new realm of like things I couldn't even wrap my head around. Like, holy fuck. And I was in a magazine interview with Goss Magazine yesterday and I was telling them this same thing. And it was like, I would have flashbacks when I was learning about how I operate. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's why I did things that way. That's why I did that way. That's why I experienced that way. And it just made so much sense learning what I was always scared to learn about myself. And so that's kind of just like a little recap of the last 14 years.
That is so beautiful. All of it. There's so many things that I want to impact, but I just want to say congratulations on your sobriety and you what I'm hearing is, you stepped fully into your power and like you said, kind of met
100%.
yourself. And it sounds like it happened like really fast. Like all of a sudden you just like jumped off the cliff and like free fell into yourself and what you're really meant for. And that is just such a beautiful picture. And it shows in the way that you show up and your authentic expression and how well you're doing and the way that you serve your clients. Like it all makes sense given that transition that you made. Sounds like at the end of 2022. So um, you've clearly had a lot of pivots, starting out with Beachbody and then being a brand designer and everything in between there and what got you here. Can you speak a little bit to those who know that there's pivots that need to be made in order for them to get ultimately to where they want to be and living out like the true vision that they have for their lives? Because pivots are one of those things where it's really easy to procrastinate them, right? But the way I see it is like, why wait? Why not just do it faster? But at the same time, like it can feel like you're doing a lot of zigzagging when you don't wait to pivot. You just like keep jumping. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like I just made a bunch of changes and now I'm doing it again. And that kind of growth can be tiring. So I would love to hear your insight around that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And to touch on jumping completely off the cliff, it was absolutely that. I had spent like 13 years of my life being this highly functioning alcoholic. And so for me, I was just so desperate that like jumping off the cliff was the only option at that point, right? It was just like I was so tired and burnt out from my life and the cycles that I had just like continuously put myself in. So that was when I started learning that, like, okay, pivots are so necessary for our evolution, so necessary. And it's like, yes, we can fear them, Or we can go completely through them, like balls to the wall, knowing that failing is inevitable, but also understanding that success is inevitable, right? And so it's like we can move through that and just get it done quicker, or we can sit in contemplation. And by the time we take action, it's a fuck show, anyways, because we're scared as hell, right? So it's like, when it comes to evolving and really learning to trust ourselves and really learning how to step into new levels of self leadership, like we have to pivot. And so like that's one of the things that I talk to with my clients often is it's like we feel like once we hit a certain milestone, I feel like we're conditioned to feel like once we hit a certain milestone, we've made it. This is it. We don't have to, it's like, okay, well, once I've made like 200K, once my business has grown to that, or once I can do this, or once I can do that, it's like, honey, you still hit walls. You still have limiting beliefs. You still have pivots. You still have growing pains. You still have new levels of self leadership always until the day you die, right? It just looks different. And so I feel like if more people would just understand that no matter what level you're at or what level you get to, you're always going to be evolving. It's like it would just make life so much easier. So many people have misconceptions of like, as soon as I hit this milestone, I'll be good. I won't have to worry about that anymore. It won't be as hard. It won't be. And it's like, of course it will. It just looks different. But the sooner and the harder you move through self leadership and out of contemplation, like the simpler it's going to get quicker. And I feel like so many people just sit in contemplation and think that it will just like unfold for them naturally, or, well, it's just not meant to be. It'll happen when it's meant to happen. And it's like, we still have to take action. We like sitting in our current circumstance and just sitting there is not going to change shit. It never will. Right? We can think that it will. We can have that delusion, but really it's like time doesn't wait. The industry is not going to wait. Like everything's evolving with or without you. So it's like, do yourself a favor, right? Like, do yourself a favor. It's like all of these things that you fear are inevitable. We will fail. We will fall. We will hit a wall. It will be scary. We will meet versions of ourselves that we're not ready to do yet. But it's like, regardless, you're going to have to do it. Regardless, it's going to happen. But also trusting that success, like big success, and learning to trust yourself so much that like the pivots just get simple and the hitting the wall gets to be simple, like that's inevitable as well.
I love the way that you said that. I mean, when you said it the first time, failure is inevitable, and so is success. It's all part of the process. That's it. And it just, I love the way you broke that down and just really emphasized the importance of just moving, just taking action, just doing what you need to do before you get too in your head about it, because that's what your brain is designed to do. It's designed to magnify risk and make it appear so much more likely than what it actually is, when in reality you're always going to fail and you're always going to succeed, period, as long as you're taking consistent action. So the mastery is not in not having the blocks or the issues or the setbacks or whatever it is, because we're all going to have them no matter what level we're playing in, right? The mastery is the fast action and the messy action and the willingness to just put one foot in front of the other consistently. I always say, like, know the big vision and the one step in front of you. That's it. Because
Mm.
guess what? We cannot know what 10 steps ahead is going to look like. And we're definitely not going to be prepared right now to handle the 10th step. You can't be ready for that
Mm.
until you get to step number 8. So just worry about step number 1. That's it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. It's like, oh, that is just so refreshing. It's so refreshing. And it's like, word to the wise or the unwise, like our action is always going to be messy. It doesn't matter how ready you think you are or what level you are at, it's always going to be messy because the fact of the matter is even though we're taking action, even though we have a vision, we still can't control what's going to happen. And so it's like learning how to be in that self leadership all the time where you can adjust to different situations and not just have your heart set on one thing and it's like only that thing. It's like For me, like goal setting or like milestones or like I need to get here, it's like I more look at my journey as like a lifelong thing. It's like I have a big vision. I have set goals, yes, but it's not like I don't map out what that's going to look like. I don't micro analyze the little things because a lot of the little things that have to do with my big vision don't make sense. And when they don't make sense, it gets really scary, right? So it's like, okay, well, I I love the taking the messy action where it's just like I will go experience life, I will go experience mentorship, I'll go experience my business, and then those experiences I get to compound the good ones and let go of the bad ones and learn from them. And it's like those intangible the compounding the intangibles like that's what creates the tangible results. And that's another thing that I think people have a misconception about. It's like, okay, I want the actionable steps right now so I can hit a 10K month. Okay, and then what? Like, and then what are you going to do for the rest of your life? You know what I mean? But it's like another thing that I love to speak on is like our results that we desire are a byproduct of the process, but nobody wants to go through the process, right? It's like, well, I want this now. And it's like, well, the results are a byproduct of the process, right? And I use this example all the time, but it's like wanting to get pregnant but not having sex. Like you can't just bypass the process and just expect a result. And it's like also coming out of this like 7 year conditioned hustle era period where we were told that we could create this like massive business with a phone in 15 minutes a day. And I'm like, this is not a thing. This is not a thing. And if it is a thing and you got lucky and there's like exceptions to everything, it's not going to be sustainable. So like, let's just do this the right way. Let's set some healthy expectations so we don't fuck up our subconscious so much that we're just like, no, that's not right. That's not right. And then all of these people are eyeballs in debt because they're investing in so much mentorships trying to find the answer when it's like it's not something you get, it's somebody who you become, and you're like losing yourself on the process of trying to get this secret sauce that doesn't exist. Like there's so many factors that go into this, right? And now I'm just going off on a tangent, but like I could talk about this forever, and I will talk about this forever.
I was going to say, please talk about it forever on all your platforms, everywhere you go, because oh my gosh, that is so, oh, so real. And I resonate with that. Like, there have been multiple times where I have lost myself trying to find the secret sauce, and it sucks because you have to take such a big step back to gain some perspective. And then and then there's all this inner work that's left for you anyway that you could have been doing from the start. Instead, you're like playing on the surface and trying to like figure out which key fits the lock. And it's
Mhm.
not that. Like you said, it's who you become. So going off of that, I would love to hear your philosophy around wealth and like how that shows up in your client experience and in your own journey, because I know that you have a unique perspective, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, so wealth is just such a huge part of who I am and what I'm creating and what I help my clients create. And this is like where I really started speaking on the short-term shit is not my jam, right? But it's also like I can still enjoy things in the now. So my philosophy on wealth is really like my parents are very successful entrepreneurs as well. And it's like I watch the way that they live their life now and I'm like it's such a beautiful thing, but like I want it now. I don't want to wait, right? And it's like and then you have the people who are working conventional jobs and that's great if that fits their lifestyle, but it's just not for me, right? Like I can't fathom just just generating an income, building wealth or whatever that may look like for like to enjoy a decade before we die, right? It's like that is terrifying to me. And like somebody had to say that. I know it's morbid, but it's like for me, I really got in touch with this because my biggest fear is death. And it's like not because it's going to hurt or anything like that. It's just like I don't want to not exist. You know, like I love my life. My life, I just love my life. And so that the unknown is it's terrifying to me. And so it's like I don't want to just spend my life building with this big, beautiful vision and just like, okay, I'll enjoy you at the end of my life. Like, I don't even know when that is. I don't even know when that is. So it's like wealth to me, it's like an abundance of resources. So for me, it was tapping into what I already had, the resources I already had, and realizing that everything I want now is available to me. And this kind of goes into abundance too, because I feel like when people attach the word wealth or the word abundance to like an end result or a money goal or something like that, and it's like, do you even understand like the depth of these meanings, the depths of these terms, right? And so it's like when I stopped, and this was really when I got sober and I started to understand that like my entire life I've been chasing this like external guidance and this external validation, right? Like my life didn't mean anything unless something external was proving that to me. I was making money, or men were telling me that I was pretty, or women were telling me that they looked up to me. And so it was like when I got sober and I really started tapping into the internal, it was like, okay, am I truly fulfilled? Like, could I sit in an empty room completely butt ass naked and be filled with myself? And the answer was no. And so I really tapped into that and I started to learn that like everything that I desire is it's within arm's reach, right? Like it's already available to me. So I started using the resources I already had, like my ADHD, like my impulsiveness, like letting go of my sobriety being my identity and more of just something I experienced. And I also started letting go of the external validation. None of that was evidence to me that what I was doing was the right thing. I didn't need the big sales to tell me that what I was doing was right. I didn't need people, right? Like as humans, we all crave validation. But I more look for that internally now and just understand that like to me wealth is it's an abundance of resources and I already have those. So why not start enjoying those now while still planning for the future? And so from from my perspective and the way that I teach on wealth and abundance is like it's not all connected to the monetary, right? Because we could have all the money in the world and a piss poor attitude and we're just going to be lonely and rich. But we could also have all the money in the world and be so fucking fulfilled even without that, that is where like true wealth is built.
Yes. Snaps for that. Oh my gosh. That's so, it is so refreshing to hear that we are refreshing each other in this conversation. And this is where we really overlap. And I love it because, as the fun coach, it's kind of the same philosophy of like, what are we waiting for? You're really going to, like, for you, it's like, are you really going to wait to, embody wealth and abundance in the last decade of your life? And same thing with fun. Are you really going to wait until you've reached that point to go adventure and have fun and do all the things that you've wanted to do since you were a teenager? Why? Why? And that's the abundance mindset is everything that we're seeking is fully available and already within us, really, because anything that we're looking for, whether it be, the dream house or the travels or the money or the successful business, there's a feeling on the other side of that we're looking for. It's the peace, it's the love, it's the fulfillment, it's for me, it always comes down to I just want to feel alive. And to feel alive, we have to feel the full spectrum of emotions. And that is something that is within us. All of those things that I listed out live within us and are available to us. And operating out of that place to then create those tangible results is an entirely different process than trying to plug and play someone's methodology to just get that external result. Because kind of like we talked about a moment ago, then you get to that point, and then what? And then you
Yeah.
still have to take a look with a deep look within and do a little bit of backpedaling usually.
I love that so much. And I watch you and the way that you live your life. And it's just like, oh my God, we'd be so fun at parties. Like, we'd be so
Yeah, we
fun at a
would.
party together. Like, we need to go to a party together. Um, but no, I totally agree with you. And I also feel like I was at a point in my life where where I sought out mentorship and, being in other people's spaces for the wrong reasons, right? Like, even at the beginning of last year, I was 4 months sober. And it was like I was searching for the mentorship that gave me the keys to success that like other people had plug and played. And I've learned so much. I invested $120,000 in mentorship last year, and I've learned so much from every experience. And the majority the majority of things that I learned, I mean, they weren't strategy. It was really like who I was, who I didn't want to be, who I desired to become, who I wanted to be as a leader, like what I wanted to model. And none of that had anything to do with, creating this like hustle culture or making people feel like they had to duplicate what I was doing to be someone, right? Because it really comes down to like who you desire to be is inevitably going to unfold into what you desire, where you desire to go. We really are the vehicle for that. And yes, mentorship is important. God, it is so important. I'm so grateful for the mentorship that I have in my life right now. But it's like we are the vehicle and like they are the upgrades. You know what I mean? It's like, let's fucking go. And I'm so grateful for this industry and I'm so grateful for the network that I have and other people's networks that I continue to expand in because it's like I don't know who I would be without that. Right? Like
Mhm.
learning who I am and how I operate and how to channel that type of energy. Like I would literally still be a drunk if I didn't have access to that.
Yeah, that's so real. That's so real. And everything that you're saying really, from my perspective, sets you apart in such a beautiful, needed way, honestly, like with the market right now. And the fact that, well, actually, no, I guess I'll turn this into a question. I would love to hear, like, if you had to nail down one thing that has been transformational for you and your clients, um, when it comes to like you being the vehicle, each of us as individuals being the vehicle, what would you say that one thing is?
My sobriety, 100%.
Has it
I
brought you home to yourself?
absolutely. And I didn't have the clarity that I needed to step into new roles of self-leadership. I didn't have I wasn't healing. I was trauma bonded. I was very reactive and that sent me into a deeper spiral because of the guilt and the shame. And it was like when we are kind of trapped by all of that, it's really hard to set aside our egos and allow ourselves to step into a new level of self leadership. It's like, how can we do that? How can we do that when we don't fully trust ourselves?
Yes, we can't. We really can't. There's so much self-trust and it goes so much deeper than confidence in that regard, right? Like self-trust
Yeah,
is what like lives beneath and fuels confidence, and that is absolutely necessary for self-leadership. So it sounds like, for anyone on the other end of this, um whether or not it's drinking, that maybe is a numbing mechanism or something that's just keeping them from really being like living at home within themselves. It sounds like the shedding of whatever it is
absolutely.
that is blocking you.
Yeah, the shedding of things that no longer serve us. And I that looks different for everybody, but we all have things to shed that don't serve us anymore. And that's a really scary place to be because when we are so conditioned as a society to continue doing things like we got to do whatever it takes. And like, I don't fully believe that with everything, right? It's like, uh, well, I don't, first of all, I don't got to do anything. And there are certain things that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to give up my inner peace and my happiness and things that I've worked so hard for something or someone. So it's like, we all will constantly have things to shed as we evolve. And if we don't, we're not evolving. If we're staying in the same circumstance, we're just not evolving, and that's just like a scientific fact, right? But it's like that can be a really scary place to be because when we have things that have created success in our lives or have made us happy or made us feel numb to something or different ways of doing things in our business and that's comfortable, it's really scary to shed things because it's like we don't know what's on the other side and we fear what we don't know. But it's like if it's
Yes.
coming from a place of truth, if you're truly like this no longer serves me and you shed that, it like pushing through that limitation and not going over that limitation, like it's the most freeing thing you'll ever do in your life. You know, and what's the
It
worst
really,
thing that happens? You miss it a little bit. I mean, power panties up, doll. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh my gosh, I love this. I love this so
have the pity
much.
party, honor that, and move on.
Yeah. 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 Feel what you're feeling and feel it all the way. I try
Hmm.
to feel stuff, the negative things, the hard things as like fast and hard as I can so I can move through it. And
100%.
it's interesting that we ended up here because I have a couple clients who recently shed smoking weed. And that was really, really cool to see because they shared how it served them for so long. Like it really did get them through some hard times to kind of escape in one way or another in that sense or to turn off. And in this season, it's not. And it's just so beautiful to see how, when you are truly evolving, like you said, you can't not shed things. But it's so hard because we're literally we're not wired to be able to do that with ease because
Mm,
we're in between two things, like the evidence that something actually has served us and it's gotten us to where we're at, and then the unknown. And we're already scared of the unknown, and we have that evidence pulling us back. So it's so unnatural to let go of something that we've seen work and move into the unknown. But one of my favorite quotes is, "What got you here isn't going to be what gets you there," because you are.
absolutely. Yeah. And it really is a son of a bitch. But it's one of those things where it's like power panties up, and we're going to have to go through that several times in our life. And so that's one of those other, like, I love that you talked about the abundance mindset because so many people lack that. And so many people, like I talked about at the beginning of this, will say, well, once I have that strategy down pat, like I'll be good. And it's like that won't serve you forever. Oh, well, once I have that relationship, I'll be good. And it's like that may not serve you forever. It's like we can't just bank on these milestones, like setting us up for the rest of our life. It just doesn't work that way. We are not monogamous with our current circumstance.
Hmm. I like that. I need to like write that down in my brain or on a notepad right
Monogamy is
now.
it's one of my favorite words.
We are not monogamous with our current circumstances. Yeah, our current strategies. They're gonna have to change
100%.
and evolve. Like we both know that the deeper that you get specifically into entrepreneurship, the more that your identity, of course, and your evolution as a human. And then also like the way that you're living your life, the way that you're playing, the way that you're enjoying becomes a bigger piece of the puzzle. It's not just about how you're executing in your business anymore. It's what place are you operating from? What are you embodying on a daily
Yeah.
basis?
Yeah. Embodiment is so important. And it's like the the deeper we truly embody our life and what we're doing in our business or what we're doing in any aspect of our life for that matter, it's like when things do shift, when things do evolve, it becomes so much lighter, right? Because we trust ourselves and like we've been through it, we've moved through it. We know that it's not as scary as everybody thinks on the other side. But it's like if you don't truly embody your experiences and if you truly don't embody your future experiences, I mean, that's a really stuck place to be. And I feel like that is more terrifying than going into the unknown. And like I will always say, like, I don't mean go into the unknown and like step out of your comfort zone by walking down a dark alley naked. You know what I mean? It's like we all know how that ends up, but it's like sitting in a stagnant energetic space or moving into the unknown energetics. I mean, uh, I sat in the same energetic space for 13 years and it was terrifying and it almost took my life. And so that like stepping into the unknown, it was like, fuck it. Here we
What do I have to
go.
lose?
Yep, right. I might belly flop. There might be sharks at the bottom. It might be shallow, but like it's really shitty up here. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely just dove right off that cliff and it was like the best cliff. I want to go back over and over and over again.
Oh, I love to hear that, and more people need to hear that. You are doing such important work. Nick, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and just all of the wisdom that you've collected. It definitely felt like a surge of power within me. So I'm sure it felt the same way
Mm.
for the listeners today. If anyone wants to connect with you more, where would be the best place for them to do that?
I actually deleted all of my social media platforms except for YouTube and Instagram. And you can find me at Femi Wealth Engineer.
And I will have that tagged below in the show notes. So again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
Thank
for
you guys
having
for
me.
listening. Absolutely. It was an honor. Thanks for
So
listening.
I'm so excited to rewatch this.
I know. I'm excited to re-listen to it. Thank you guys so
Yay.
much for joining us on the Limitless Living podcast today. And I will see you back here next time.
Talk to you soon.